Okay. Hi, everybody. For those of you who were with me the last two sessions, welcome back for session number 3. Rob has turned on the recording for me, so I'm just kind of doing my hanging out in the chair here. This workshop's going to be a little bit different than the other two, hopefully less talking from me and more questions from all of you. So please start typing in any questions you have now into the chat box, because I'll try to answer them as we go along. What I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be sharing a couple of screens of what I feel are a lot of the questions that I have been getting, both as a region director and now as a New York State PTA treasurer. And I'm like, just click happy all of a sudden. Okay, so it's treasurer's topics, but I am going to be way open for a lot of questions, so please feel free to start chatting away. I don't know why I can't see the chat box, Rob. Okay, so number 1 for all treasurers and for anybody who's serving as the PTA leader, a reminder about our mission, that PTA is a powerful voice for all children, a relevant resource for families and communities, and a strong advocate for the education and well-being of every child. And we always start with the mission because this is, why we're all here, and this is what we should all be working towards. And so this is an important thing for all of us to remember as we do our PTA work, that we should put everything through the filter of our mission. Is what we're planning to do, does it inform or help us get towards our mission? So that's number 1. So we always want to remind everybody about that. And there's no reason why this couldn't be part of all of your general meetings. Just a reminder to everybody as we start that this is really what we're advocating for. So what does PTA do as far as funds? We aren't a fundraiser, we're an advocacy organization, but we do raise funds to do our work. And so we raise funds for the education of PTA leaders and members through the attendance at conferences and workshops. And we're leading with that because as we are going across the state and working with some of our units and working and helping them with their audits and their preparation for the year, we're seeing that some of our units aren't recognizing the need to send their members for leadership training and their members to learn more about PTA and maybe become potential leaders. So we do have leadership training at every level now. It's done locally. If you're a part of a council, we have councils that do leadership training. We have regions that do it. We certainly do it at the state. This typically is an in-person training, and there is a fee attached to it. Usually. So what we're asking you to do is to make sure that you are including this in your budgets, that there is lines for training for your members to attend both a state, region, and local events. A lot of training can be done at no cost through the e-learning things that are offered at national, the webinars at state. But it is important that everybody show, because it is part of your bylaws, what we're saying we're doing as an association is developing leaders. It's important that you're showing how you're doing that and what funds you're dedicating towards that. It doesn't have to be a large percentage of your income or your expenses, but it should appear on your budget. And again, those are opportunities that sometimes in person is the best way for yourself to learn more about PTA and to really, take a deeper dive into this association that we're giving that is doing great work for all of our children. PTA funds programs at PTA meetings to provide information on parenting and family and parent involvement. If we went back to the mission, we would see that the mission isn't all about focusing on child, but it's focusing on strengthening families. And that's something that we should all be considering as we do our work. But we can fund programs for children, such as our arts and education programs and performances, our reflections program, and then anything else that carries out the purposes of PTA. So that's really where we want you to be focusing your funds. A big part of who PTA is our 501c3 status. That's our tax exempt, and so we want everybody to remember that as well. Meeting the mission of our work is a requirement of the 501c3 status that we enjoy as a tax exempt organization, which means we don't have to pay sales tax when we are out purchasing things. And as part of that, you have your tax exempt number that's provided by New York State PTA or by New York State, so that you can use that when your unit is shopping for supplies. We also are exempt from paying income tax. We do have to report our income, but we don't have to pay tax on it. We have a group exemption through New York State PTA. Contributions by donors, they can use them as charitable contributions for tax purposes. So it's important that you're reaching out to your donors. If you have donors of large amounts, that you're providing them with the proper receipts so they can use that for their taxes. And it also helps with a lot of businesses that you're working with that are interested in donating. They would want to see the proof of your 501c3 status as well for their own tax benefits. Again, we're organized and operating according to our mission, and that's set forth in our bylaws. And then, of course, we, as a 501c3, we are an advocacy organization, and so we advocate for health, education, and well-being of all children. This is a repeat slide from earlier, but for those who didn't join us, we are highly recommending everybody join the PTA National PTA Local Leaders pages to get the Back to School Kit, it's also called. You can access it here at this link. You just have to register with your email and create a password. Then you will have full access, and there is an excellent finance section that has great resources, including links to their e-learning courses and templates for various financial documents that you can use. You can customize any of those documents to meet your unit needs, but it's a pretty complete set. It's not something that we have currently on our website, but we are looking to build those in. Those are a work in progress. Another thing that I want to talk about from the treasurer's point of view is the fact that we have our insurance program. Each one of our units pays a premium to AIM Insurance every year for their insurance policy. You will receive a certificate of that policy. The treasurers, you should be keeping a copy of that in your files. The most important thing about our insurance is we want to keep our claims low. We want to make sure that we abide by what the insurance is asking us to do. And we do that several ways. And one of them is using the stop, play, and pause list, which is the list of various activities. So again, if your unit, when you're planning your programs, please, once your programs are all set, just do a quick reference to this list to make sure something that you planned is not on the pause or stop list. So again, if you wanted to do a fire throwing activity, that's going to be on the stop list, and you're going to have to say we're going to need to rethink that. So there's a lengthy list of things, a lot of things that are on the playlist and a few on the pause and stop. So we want you to be very mindful of those. If you have a question about something that you're doing and it's sort of on the list or it's not on the list, you are welcome to call the AIM Insurance Company at the 800 number listed here. It's also on your policy, or email them. They're very responsive. This is a 24/7 email that they respond to on a regular basis. Just give them a quick email and say you're a unit in New York State PTA, your unit is this code number, so they can verify you have the policy with them. And then you just say, we're interested in having, a blacksmith demonstration, and he's going to have a live fire going to do his blacksmithing. Is that acceptable? And they will explain to you whether or not that your insurance will cover that. So don't hesitate to call them if there's any question. If it's not passing the smell test totally, just give them a call and get their verification that something is going to be covered or not in case of something that might go wrong. We have a question that also comes up a lot for me is, what do we do with our excess funds? And, interesting in this COVID times that we're living, units seem to be obviously in two places. They either have a lot of excess funds because they had raised them all in the fall to spend in the spring, or they're short funds because they usually raise them in the spring and they weren't able to hold their fundraisers. So let's talk about excess funds for those that weren't able to complete all their expenses. There is no ruling from the National or New York State PTA, nor the IRS, that will say there's a limit on the amount of money that you can carry from the previous year. We recommend, obviously, that you have sufficient funds for startup expenses, including leadership training, which a lot of that happens through the summer so that everyone's prepared. Back to school activities, all of those things, you should account for them and be prepared to have those in your budget or your spending plan, whichever direction you choose to go for your July, August, and half of September spending. But funds not spent in one year's budget should definitely be included in the next year's budget. So they should alleviate a fundraiser that you might typically have if you have excess funds. You're also welcome, and we encourage you to have an emergency reserve fund. And certainly, again, the experiences we've had with not being able to access the schools and our families to do our regular events, we have, obviously units that have not been able to complete all of their income generating activities. So it is okay to have an emergency fund. Typically, units would keep that in a savings account and maintain the checking account for their day-to-day and monthly expenses. But an emergency fund is certainly acceptable. It's certainly considered a smart part of PTA planning and budget, and it's really intended to serve for unforeseen circumstances, or if, again, you lose the ability to hold a fundraiser, or a fundraiser doesn't go as well as you plan. And for that amount, again, we recommend about 1/2 of a full year's expenses. But don't go too far over a full year's, because then you're actually in the business of gaining funds. And if you don't have a use for those reserve funds, it's really a red flag to the IRS. I mentioned this earlier, but I will continue to mention it. We really are a one-year association. We have a budget that is for 1 year. Our members join for 1 year. Our members support us for 1 year. So we really should be operating on a year-to-year basis. So whatever we take in whatever we plan to do this year, we should take in the monies to match that this year. We shouldn't be in the business of gaining reserves, of increasing our funds. I will say that we have had several units that are using a different sort of model, and this I think is acceptable. Again, this is something that you would work with your executive committee and put forth to all of your members. But we have had some units that have been successful in having one large fundraiser, a substantial fundraiser that actually covers them for 2 years. And if that's something that you can do, that certainly is acceptable rather than that year-to-year model that I talked about. But it's something that you want to make sure that both your executive committee is acceptable of, and your members are accepting of it and approving it. So it's another option that we've had some units that have been very successful in this one large fundraiser. They're able to go a year with no fundraising, which in some units has caused a nice increase in membership, because people recognize that we're not there for fundraising and that we are doing some great work with the money that had been raised. Another common question that you will get is donations, the request for donations to help out a single student or a family that has had either a tragic or unfortunate event happen, maybe an illness or other setback. Unfortunately, due to IRS regulations, we as a PTA are not able to go to our budget, our reserves, our current operating funds and say, well, the student, there has been a setback, we'd like to donate and we'd like to give $500 or $100 towards helping out. Unfortunately, that is not something that we can do through the IRS. Our funds are to be used for our mission, and our mission covers all children. So our purposes are not for just general welfare of one person or disaster related. So just skip to the bottom on of this slide. Here at the bottom, you'll see what we recommend is that you use your PTA experience and your skills that you have in becoming an organizer of events, and you are a great fundraiser. Do that outside of PTA. Maybe find another group that's leading the charge to help out this family. Help in other ways outside of PTA, but that's not to say that the PTA cannot be a great resource for additional volunteers to help this cause if they're running an event to raise money, or you can also advertise and spread the word. You can use your network that way. It's just, we cannot just take funds directly from the PTA and transfer them over to a person in need. Sometimes people will come back at me and say, well, what about, we help out this club at school and there's only 10 kids in it, or, we helped to fund a field trip for this particular class that was going to learn about, biomedical stuff at the hospital. That group is large enough to be considered a charitable class, which is a little bit higher above, because it's not us that limited that class that's limited by the school environment. So, but we still would like to support that activity because it is helping our kids, and eventually that activity that those students are doing, we feel will help the community in the long run because they're all going to become doctors, I guess. So again, let's make sure that we are whenever we are funding things, that we're doing it in the most equitable way possible. Okay, I'm going to do the IRS 990 because it's that time of year. The system opened up on July 1st, and we have until November 15th to file our 990 forms. Most of our units can, with gross receipts that are less than 50,000, file the postcard, which is the most simple filing. It's about a 5-minute process. You will receive a link from File 990, which we contract on behalf of all of our units. We do pay them a fee to help us, send out reminders and links so people can go on and file. File 990 does offer assistance if you need it, and that's included in the email from them. They also offer some assistance if you have lost your status due to revocation. So the IRS 990 can be daunting to some people. As treasurer, I think that, if that's something that you feel not like that you want to take on, you can certainly work with the president to work on it together, or have a committee if you feel like you are over the 50,000 dollars in gross receipts and you need to file the 990 EZ. It takes a little bit more information. You have to file the Schedule A, and that's, again, it's doable and it's detailed. We have detailed instructions about that in the resource guide of how to do that. But if you feel like that's more than you want to do yourself, you can certainly ask for assistance from the president, and either the president helps you or other people to gather the information, as long as it can be done timely. I mean, you do have the option for an extension, but I think with us closing out our fiscal year on June 30th and having till November 15th, I will say the majority of our units are able to file timely. You are welcome to, if your unit approves it, you are welcome to hire a professional to do your taxes. Again, if that gives you a comfort level and you want to recommend that to your executive committee, who then recommends it to the board and your general membership, you can do that. There's a lot of these smaller tax offices that are open around, and it can be for a relatively low cost, and they're willing to do all this for you, which I think is great. If that gives your unit a level of comfort to know that you filed properly, you are able to do that. There's no restrictions about that. You are welcome to contact us at the office too, or myself, if you have questions about filing the 990. We're happy to help as best we can. Just keep in mind, again, we are looking at gross receipts and not net. So again, this is all of the income that you take in. So if you do a fundraiser and you sell $10,000 worth of X, and you still have to pay the fundraising company $5,000 for the X that you sold, you still have to report the $10,000 as your gross receipts. So just make sure, that you're, again, when you're filing the postcard, that you are truly under the 50,000 in your gross receipts. And then I think this is my last slide. This is an old school thing, the Sunshine Fund. A lot of units that have been around for a while have maintained this on their budget as a budget line. Sunshine Fund, Rainy Day Fund, Special Gift Fund. There's all different names for it, but the bottom line of it is these types of things are not acceptable for from the IRS point of view. And as a 501c3, so we cannot take money that was raised on behalf of the PTA and put it into a line where we're going to use for, and again, back in my day, if a staff member if one of the teachers had a child, we would send a little gift, or if one of our members was in the hospital, we would use some of the money to send flowers. That is no longer acceptable, and it probably wasn't acceptable back in the day, but we didn't know better until we knew better. So that's why I'm sharing that with you all now. So again, we aren't able to do that. If we feel that we have, a staff member that we want to give a gift to, or if somebody is in the hospital and we want to organize flowers, the proper way to do that is, if you want to do it at a meeting or by announcement, you can say, we are collecting funds. We have an envelope on the table. If anybody wants to slide something into the envelope, we will make sure that it gets used as intended. But it's really done as more in the spirit of PTA family, but not as PTA. So you can't report, we collected, you know, in that envelope, we collected $500 and we used it to buy, you know, a giant flower arrangement. Once the sunshine funds are used or rainy day funds are used, they're done. And unless people want to approach you privately, or you can send a note separately, not on PTA letterhead, to say, we use the sunshine fund to do this, that's okay. But it should never be in the PTA minutes or part of your PTA budget or any procedures that you have. So I just wanted to showcase a few of the things that I get questioned about a lot as treasurer of New York State and when I was region director. So those are the things that I wanted to mention, but as I said in our description of this workshop, this really is for you to also ask some of your questions. And so I'm going to go here to the chat box. If you have questions now, you can type them in. Maybe you're, okay. I'm gonna do it from here. Nope, yeah, okay, Rob, you read them to me. Oh, this will be fun. Rob, my host, will read them to me. I'm ready.
Okay, so the first question comes from Nadine. For the budget lines, there are some fundraisers we're not having this year. So what should they do? Zero out those line items in their budget lines?
So my rule of thumb is if I don't use a line for 3 years, then I eliminate it from the budget, because, you know, it's just taking up space if I haven't used it for 3 years. But so I'm thinking, Nadine, and we can unmute you if I'm not getting the question right. So just jump in the chat box and say unmute me. But what I'm thinking is if every year you say you have a plant sale and this year you're not planning to have the plant sale, but you might bring it back in the future, then you would just leave that line item 0 for this year. And then, you know, you can always have notations on your budget to say, you know, we decided not to have a plant sale this year, but we're going to do it again next year. And that happens a lot sometimes if you can't get a chairperson for an event.
Okay. So Sally's asking, sometimes AIM doesn't align with New York State PTA, for example, on bouncy castles. AIM is okay with that, New York State does not recommend it.
Right. So again, that's why we reference you to go to the resource guide. So the resource guide is produced by New York State PTA. So we put all of our guidance in there. So keep in mind that AIM is an insurance company that serves PTAs all across the country. So they are willing to do a certain thing for the policy. We are the ones that set the amount that your policy costs, right? So we're the one, so as New York State, we look at what our insurance costs and what our level of claims are, how many people have submitted claims, and we do everything we can to keep the premium that we have to pay AIM low so that we can pass that low premium payment on to you. So, you know, for most units in a single building, we're paying $300 annually for insurance, which we feel is very reasonable. So we have eliminated some of the higher risk things that we assess as higher risk from the AIM list to say, even though AIM would allow this, we have specified these activities as not for New York State, because we feel that if we do allow these things, it will increase our claims and then cause everybody's insurance to go up. So we're all in this together, the insurance program, to help try to keep the claims low. And I will have to say, I just posted the list for our board of directors meeting this morning. And, you know, all of us were very surprised at how few claims that we do have as an association. As far as liability and injuries go. And we have also been managed, because we follow the guidelines from AIM as far as doing our audits and our monthly reconciliations, we have also eliminated some of the claims that we might have been experiencing through loss of funds.
Thank you. The next one is, can you provide examples of big fundraisers that cover 2 years?
Sure. So the ones that I'm specifically familiar with are the Fun Run. Boosterthon is one of the providers of that type of activity that is large scale. The presentation to the parents happens, you know, when the parents are in the building, maybe at open house. And the PTA makes that commitment to the parents to say, we would like you your participation as best you can in this particular event. Ask, our community members to join in on that. And with those types of funds, if we have set a goal and our goal is this, we want to achieve this. So this will cover all of our PTA expenses for this current year and the next year. And that's how you get the buy-in. So I would have to say that it's usually the type of event where all of the community is participating to help raise the money. We are really looking to do a lot more of our traffic safety events, wellness fairs, and health Every Child Healthy events, and those things are community oriented, and we are providing a lot of that, and you can tie into those with your various events, and those we are also finding are drawing in a lot more people and can be the opportunity for you to put together an activity that may raise those type of funds. There are certain spiritware type fundraisers that also can get done that can raise those considerable amounts of money, especially if you hit on the trendy thing for high schoolers. We've had some success with that. The thing is, people want spiritware every year, so you still might want to do that program, but you might pick one or two specific items that are customized, like a blanket or that type of thing that everybody in the community wants for Friday night football or whatever.
Okay, the next one is for helping one student, for example, can the PTA use their email system to get the word out?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Sally Pinto asks for Gofundme, is that an option or not?
So Gofundme is an option. You can use that. You have probably seen PTAs across the country doing that. Again, as long as your membership approves it and you present it in such a way that it works for what your purpose is. Again, if you're speaking to your mission in the GoFundMe that you're looking for donations to help us do this, it is acceptable. I mean, obviously there are fees with GoFundMe, and there's a certain connotation about GoFundMe. I mean, that, you want to make sure that people understand why your PTA chose to do that. Again, Sonia pointed out earlier, your community can do donations through the MemberHub, and that may be a little less expensive. I mean, there's still a fee with MemberHub, but it may be less expensive.
Okay. Delia asks, how can we balance the budget with the lack of fundraising opportunities available in our high schools? Even if we reduce expenses, what thoughts are there for high school fundraisings other than membership and spiritware?
So I think for high school kids, a-thons, any kind of a-thons are great. So read-a-thon, jump-a-thon, anything that you can do to kind of reach out to them on their level. So I personally believe that partnering with your phys ed teachers, who usually are some of the staff members that a lot of the students enjoy the most, and reach out to your those staff members and say, what is it that you do in your phys ed classes that kids really like? So for instance, in my high school, they have a ping pong tournament. So again, a ping pong tournament that uses the equipment that's at school, like it's a big thing for them. And honestly, these kids get very competitive over ping pong, and I'm telling you, the prize at the end is a box of Oreo cookies. So like that, but it's a right of, like bragging rights. We won the Oreo cookies. So if you can find a way to have the kids meet at that level, and then maybe bring the parents in, to do the family PTA ping pong challenge, use the resources that you have there at school that are low cost. Obviously, the gym teacher, I'm sure, would be happy to have you use, their equipment, and then go ahead and involve the students. I mean, at the high school level, the more you can involve the students and their families, I think is a good way to go.
Thank you. So Michael asks, usually the budget audit and monthly reconciliation are done in person, and you are virtual. Can or should these be done virtually?
So the virtual world is different across the whole state. And again, it's all about the comfort level. So you as treasurer, you need to initiate the, if you are a treasurer, and if not, you are going to share this advice with your treasurer of your unit. You really need to initiate your comfort level. So if you know you need to have a budget meeting, use a virtual platform. You can plan your budget over a virtual platform. It's the same as sitting around the table if you all wanted to do that. You could start the budget and then pass it around by email and let everybody, or some Google Doc or all those things that people do. You can have everybody chime in that way. So it's perfectly fine to do all of those things virtually. It's going to be a little trickier to do the audit virtually. You certainly can try it though. I mean, you know, if you're, again, you might be holding things up to the screen, or you might need to share some documents ahead of time. There might be some scanning involved, but all of those things are doable. Or if you can choose to be in a, like Rob and I right now are in a very large room. Sonia was here with us and we're all, you know, more than 6 feet apart, and with the door closed, maybe we're not as loud. So, I mean, you might have an option to do things in that way too. So we are not forcing you to do the audit right away. I mean, technically your bylaws are asking for that audit report at the first meeting of the new year, but who knows when that might happen if virtually you feel you aren't able to be gathering and having a meeting. So be open about it rather than just say, we can't do anything because we're, you know, on, you know, all these guidelines and restrictions. So just make sure that you're working with your executive committee. Everybody's coming to a group decision of how things are going to be done, and then just make sure that somehow your memberships are here. Your membership is hearing from you to say, "Hey, we as the executive committee, we're on top of things. We're going to make sure we get our audit done at such and such a time. But we've been monitoring our bank account." Just be honest with your members and transparent, and you should be good. And if the audit can't happen for a couple months, again, there's nobody coming from our end to say, where's your audit? You need it done right away. You all know everybody should be reviewing how much money, where the money is, so to speak. So if you feel, you know, everybody feels comfortable that they know where the money is, the bank account matches up with what, you know, you should approximately be, then you're okay to delay some of these things. But get them done as soon as you possibly can, especially the reconciliations. You just don't want to be caught with that. You just don't want to be caught not having them and have a situation develop, and the insurance company, again, the first questions they're going to ask you is, please provide us your monthly audit or your monthly reconciliations and your audit.
Okay, I'll go to one of the new questions, and again, thanks to the members who are responding as suggestions for the other members as well.
Oh, I love that. Helpful. Yeah, I love it. Thank you.
Yes. So the other one is, are we allowed to use Venmo?
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about Venmo before. Again, that particular platform, they have actually, you know, we've reached out to them and they're like, we're not for nonprofits. We're not a platform that we expect nonprofits to be using us. They've been trying to develop a branch or a way for nonprofits to use them, and they kind of abandoned it. So they're not really looking for you to use Venmo. We don't feel that it's something you can set up, but there are other cash apps, cash applications that could possibly do that. Again, it's eyes wide open. Make sure that your unit feels comfortable with it. You know, each one of the executive committee members bears the fiduciary responsibility for the association. So again, as treasurer, if everybody tells you they want you to use a cash app like Zelle or whatever, and something goes wrong, you don't want to be the one that said, yes, I thought we could do this and I could make it work. You need to make sure that your whole executive committee signs off on that and lets the membership know. And I really believe the membership should approve the use of it, so that if something does go wrong, it's not going to fall on your shoulders, because that would be a bummer.
Okay, I think that's the last question. I know Delia had a follow-up on with no gatherings, how do high schools do additional fundraiser? And I know high school students specifically are very creative on what activities they like to do. I know my daughters are now in high school, and they do a lot of virtual Zooming with their friends and run activities as such. So there might be some suggestions and platforms out there. Okay.
Okay, great. So I just want to talk a little bit about where we are with state PTA. So just like you, we have looked very carefully at our budget this year, our income and expenses, and we have anticipated a almost 15% drop in our typical income. we have, and of course we have, unlike most units, we have a lot of fixed costs. So in other words, our PTA budget for the state has to support the office, salaries and everything that goes along with that, maintenance of the office, and, you know, things like the copy machine and the telephones and the internet service. So we have a lot of fixed costs. So, you know, our budget was a little bit of a stretch this year as well, in the sense of we have to cover all these fixed costs before we can even think about some of our, you know, fund money that was going to fund our programs. So, you know, we took a really hard look at our budget, and what we know about our budget is that it's not set in stone. So in other words, we just approved it today, but we are committed to reviewing it on a monthly basis. Our Budget and Finance Committee will be meeting monthly now to review our position. So our main source of income for New York State PTA is membership. And we're nervous, as all of you are, because normally membership starts and really gets rolling in September and October. And let's be honest, even though we have all these online ways of getting membership, we know that people like to still do it in person. And we all like that. We all want to go to back to school night, and we all want to get in line at the table and put in our membership, and it's part of our community building, and we understand that. So what I'm just recommending is, don't be so strict with your budget. So if you have to plan conservatively, do that, but let everyone know that it is not a document that's chiseled in stone. You have the option to amend it. And we covered amendments earlier, but just so we are clear, you can amend it, your budget, and I strongly recommend, and I would almost do this. I would say that every one of your meetings, you should say, we will be considering budget amendments, because that way, when you do the amendment at the meeting, you only need a majority to vote for it, the amendment, right? So if you don't give prior notice, you need 2/3 of the people to approve it, which again, you're asking for something that I believe most people would support. But, you know, just to make it easier on yourself, you can, you know, make sure that every time there's a meeting notice that goes out, it's a general membership meeting of ABC PTA, and come and learn about what's happening at school, meet the new principal, we're considering budget amendments. Just have that on there, however you send out your notice of your meetings. So again, I want to remind everybody that the budget or the membership payments have changed a little bit in the past couple of years, and we used to be, you know, due October 31st. We used to make a big splash about early bird. We've kind of moved that up to September because we've opened up, membership is open already, so you can be out in your community, vote, you know, virtually, or on any of your, you know, groups that you talk with, of your parents at school, or through your MemberHub, to let everyone know your membership system is open and ready to go. People can sign up anytime. And I think one of the things about PTA is we didn't disappear during all of this, even though we weren't operating as we normally would in the school buildings. I think a majority of our units were doing virtual meetings. New York State really increased our outreach virtually as well. So, and we have maintained our positions on state committees. As you know, our executive director has been serving on the Reimagine opening committee, you know, appointed by the governor to serve on that, and she's been giving input, and she regularly reaches out to all of us for our thoughts on that. So, you know, I think we have a lot to say about PTA. Didn't go away, and PTA is still working very hard. We're working harder now, you know, to make sure that the reopening plans are really what are going to be best for our families and communities. So I think that you can all share that with everybody as a way to sort of generate membership. So we're hopeful for that. National PTA has rolled out a new membership campaign, and I hope that everybody is taking advantage of some of the resources there to help. This could be really a new day for membership, and I know most units don't rely on their income for membership, but maybe this is a time where we can start, you know, at least increasing that a little bit. Unlike us, we do rely on memberships. The one thing we will say that National PTA has reported, and we are reporting as well, that we have not really seen any slowdown in our, that we expected in our grants that we receive. So National PTA has seen an increase in their grants, and when National PTA gets more grants, they pass their grants on to us. So some of you may have already applied for some of the TikTok grants. It's a couple $1 million worth of grants that are being spread across the country. As treasurer, you can really bring that to the table of your executive committee and hopefully identify with the help of the executive committee somebody who can help apply for some of those grants on your behalf. I highly recommend that at national level. They mostly are manageable applications. They're not pages and pages. They're pretty straightforward. So that's another opportunity for you to gain some funds. And there are some communities that may still want to help you. And we certainly think that developing a partnership program with some of your community businesses is also another good way for you to bring some money into your unit as well. And so some hard decisions are going to have to be made, but I do think it's important that we keep revisiting and revisiting, because opportunities may come as the world opens up again. Okay.
So one question is, for monthly reconciliation, we send docs ahead of time for the people to reconcile. As a council treasurer, how much oversight should I have over the other units' budgets?
So as a council treasurer, again, that is every unit in your council should have a seat at the table. And so as a treasurer, you should have those procedures in place, and they should all vote on those procedures. So if you feel that the monthly reconciliation is as important, and I truly believe it is, even before it was a requirement of our insurance, you can certainly put that procedure out in front of your voting body and say, this is going to be our procedure, that as treasurer, I want you to send me a copy of the confirmation, or just send a checkbox that says, yes, we have done our reconciliation and it was approved again, or it balanced, or whatever. So as a council person, yes, you can, as long as your members' units agree to it.
Okay, the next one is related to stale checks, and it says, is the PTA exempt from assessment process? It's the, I guess, legal term for reconciliation of the checks.
So if you have stale checks, I'm just going to say this. So we usually write checks for reimbursements, so you know who you wrote the check to. So you can do a couple things. If a check isn't being cashed, you can reach out to the party that you wrote the check to, and you could say to them, we wrote you this check on such and such a date, and we see that you haven't had a chance to deposit it. It's no longer valid anymore. Please help us with the next action. Would you like us to send a replacement check? And then you would obviously have to either void or stop payment on the other check, or you could say, would you be willing to consider that check, since you haven't cashed in, a donation to our PTA? And in which case you would just cancel that, void that out as a transaction, and then the money goes back into your coffer. So it's, again, that's another thing that should be in place as a treasurer. That should be another procedure that you have in place. How do you deal with that? And so as a treasurer, the procedures are one more thing that spreads the responsibility of being a treasurer to everybody. So everybody has to approve your procedures. So everybody will help you draft them and make them manageable for you, or help bear the load of them. Because as a treasurer, I spoke about this earlier, you get a lot of people asking you things and you feel like you're always saying no, and that's really not, like, how fun is that to be, everybody else gets to do the fun stuff and you get to be the person always saying, nope, can't do that. Nope, we're not doing that. No, we can't do that. So share the load of this position with everybody. Every unit obviously has bylaws, but you should have procedures that match them. And if you don't, now's the time to start them. The best way to do procedures is to just write things down as you do them. Oh, procedure. Okay, I just got a question about a stale check. What do I do? Let me write down what I think I should do, and then everybody else can chime in, or you can reach out and say, I need help writing a procedure for a stale check. And that's the way you build your procedures. And what's good about procedures, obviously, is they can be changed at any meeting. They can be updated, changed, amended. If it's in your bylaws, it takes a process. It's a shorter process than it used to be, but it is still a process to amend your bylaws. And so the more you can keep in procedures, the more fluid you can be with running your unit. Examples of all of those in our resource guide too. I hope Sonia knows how to do that little, she had that set up so people could answer, yes or no, but hopefully everybody has access to the resource guide. we highly recommend it. We also recommend the Facebook group that's called PTA Local Leaders. It's a national, but a lot of people chime in there on things and give great ideas. So if you're using Facebook, I recommend you join the Local Leaders group.
So we have about 3 minutes, and this last question comes as parents are asking, well, what is the PTA fundraising for this year? If we can't have big events of fundraising due to COVID, any advice?
Sure. So what is it? So, well, the PTA is raising what funds to bring family engagement, let's call it that, to our families. So we might not be able to meet in person, but we're going to meet via Zoom. Well, Zoom is free to a certain extent, but if you need a bigger Zoom account, you know, to have 100 people or 200 people on, then you have to pay for that. So you're going to use your resources to help continue family engagement. So again, we don't know our school opening plan, but once we do know that, we can plan accordingly for that as well. So again, if things, if you have to do events on a smaller scale, so say you were going to do a meet the principal, you know, and you wanted to have, you know, coffee with the principal or meet the principal, and you used to do it once a month and you had, you know, like 50 people come. Now you might have to do it in smaller groups. And so that might cost more because you want to provide some refreshments, and maybe smaller groups is what people want and more people come. So really your answer to families is you're doing everything you can to support the mission. And if they need specifics, they're welcome to come to the meetings or review your budget to see what you have planned for the year. A virtual book club would be fun, wouldn't it? I don't know, would it? I would have liked that with my kids.
Okay, I think that's
okay.
it.
So I shared my screen with the oh shoot, I messed that up. Slideshow. Current slide. Okay. Once again, here are the resources for you all. Down at the bottom is my email. You can email me anytime with questions. This is a volunteer thing for me, just like it is for you. So I try to keep up with the questions as I go along with the other treasurer duties I have with New York State PTA. But yeah, send any suggestions too. Like if you feel like you want to talk more about budget. So we've been doing these New York State web chats, we call them. And so we could do a web chat, you know, about finances or treasury or budget. If you think that's something you'd be interested in on a continuing basis, just send us any suggestions. You can type them fast into the chat room before Rob closes us out, because we are now going to, at 4 o'clock, encourage all of you to go to our mental health presentation. It starts at 4, right? So I think I have a few more minutes, Rob. Do I have a few more minutes?
From 4 to 5.
Oh, so I think we have a few more minutes. So what I'd like to know is, is there anybody out there that can share with the rest of the group? I know some people have been sharing online, but is there anybody willing to share something that they are doing that they have found effective during these COVID times, or just in general, that they would like to share with the rest of the group? Just quickly put your name in the chat box. Oh, you can apparently Rob says you are allowed to unmute yourself now. So if anybody wants to unmute themselves and share something with us or ask a question out loud, we're open.
Hi, my name's Alicia Pace. I'm from Mineola. One thing that our parents do keep saying is, you know, for what are you fundraising?
All right, if nobody asks a question, you're gonna have to listen to me now talk about the last one.
She's asking it.
Oh.
Is your volume?
Oh, my volume must not be up high enough? Okay, hold on, sorry.
Okay.
I don't know how to fix that, Rob, though. Save
yeah,
me, Rob,
I'll
save me.
Mute yourself.
Okay, I'm trying, Rob, I'm trying. Okay, I'm on, I think I'm on now. I think I have volume now. Okay, who's it, who?
Hi, my name is Alicia. Hi,
Oh.
thank you for everything. I just wanted to say that it's my first time being a treasurer ever. And one of the questions people, I was a president before at a different school, But the school I'm at, and I'm getting the questions everywhere is for what are you fundraising? And you sort of answered that a little bit. I think of a deeper web chat, because the best thing about trainings is when we can all collaborate and get ideas from each other. So I think that would be a cool web chat, just to some more specifics. But one thing that the new president at the school is doing is the letter. I'm sure several of y'all probably already do it, where you send a letter that says, hey, if you don't want to be a part of a fundraiser, then you can send in a donation, and they do it in a funny way. Like, I'll give you, $100 to never email me again, or to never send a Home Magazine fundraiser. I'll give you $50 if my kid doesn't have to steal chocolate bars. Something funny and upbeat and lighthearted. We haven't done it, but that's something we're thinking about maybe doing in our district. So when you would ask for ideas, that's pretty much the only brand new thing that maybe.
Alternate fundraisers have been very successful for our PTA units.
I couldn't hear you, I'm sorry.
The alternate fundraiser, that's kind of what that's called, the alternate fundraiser, have been very successful for PTA units across the state. So I think it's worth a try.
If anybody has any cool ideas for that, or text me, I'll look at your PTA website. Maybe I'll steal your letter if you've already got a good one. Thank you.
Thank you. Am I good?
So this is Kate Kelly from Farmingdale. Not fundraising idea, but just ways to keep interactive with our units. We've been doing virtual spirit days, virtual spirit weeks.
Oh, I like that.
Giving ideas, and they're not always directed with the kids. Some of them are directed at the parents, since they're on Facebook. So what are you reading? What are you binging? And then we do giveaways. So we created some cute little baskets, and then some days we're just teachers, some days we're members, and some days we're even just, people who participated. And I think that was huge. We got a lot of good feedback for that. So again, not fundraising, we weren't making money, but we definitely were getting people involved and, excited.
That's a great idea, and I do like the idea. It's really about the connection. That's really what people are finding. So even though we feel like we might have to do fundraising, if we don't really have anything to spend the money on, we don't actually have to do the fundraising, right? So we could actually tell people that, we're doing things that are no cost or low cost, so we're okay without fundraising for now. We're just gonna, be present with everybody. We're just going to try to connect with people. So that's also, but don't just do it, like let people know, hey, we're not planning on doing any fundraising. We just want to stay connected, and we're going to use this platform or that platform, and, join us for our spirit weeks, or, again, coffee with the principal can be virtual too. So, or the new teacher, or whoever you want to, superintendent, whoever. So great ideas there.
Hey, Patty, this is Dana.
Hi, Dana.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Hey, I just wanted to follow up with Alicia, just so you know, I don't know if Sonia covered it in hers, but MemberHub did release a fundraising package that's tied right into MemberHub. And so when you do your no fuss fundraising, you want to look at the crowdfunding one, but that lets your parents donate via credit card. So if you're going to have issues getting those flyers out, or having them send them back to the school because they're only there 2 days a week if they're there at all, look into the MemberHub fundraising section. If you go to the admin console, it's one of the tabs there, and you set it up, you get your own page, just like the store's its own page, so you don't have to log into MemberHub or anything. It's just a public link, and there's tons of options. But if you want more information, go to memberhub.com/workshops. They are doing a constant stream of workshops on fundraising, on lots of things, but all the different kinds of fundraisers are on there. So it might be a good virtual way to do your basket raffle, to do your readathon or that kind of stuff, and raise money for your schools, but not have to gather together.
I'm sensing a web chat on that, Dana. Like you could come on and talk about how to do that.
Yeah.
Maybe share. I like to share success stories. So hopefully, we can get somebody who's been using it as a great platform, and we can share that. And I just want to and thank you, Dana, so much. Jane is serving as one of our region treasurers, so that's great, and knows a ton about MemberHub, so thanks for that. Just one last thing. So somebody commented in their chat box that they, wanted to do something, but the principal wasn't on board with it. Let's just, keep in mind that we appreciate a good relationship with our principal, but our principal really should not have control over what we do as a PTA. So I understand that a principal probably would want to, approve a flyer that might be going home in the backpack, so to speak. But if you were to do some of these ideas and do it outside, that don't have to involve the school building per se, the principal really shouldn't have that type of control. So again, we are an independent 501c association. I'm not saying that we don't want to have a great relationship with the principal, but I think if we need to talk these things out a little bit with the principal, and I'm sure the person who put that question in already did, but let's keep trying on that. But if you think that that's a barrier to you doing your PTA, please contact me, because we do have some information we can help you share with the principal about what the relationship really is between principals and PTAs. All right, so I hope everybody's going to go sign up for the National PTA Back to School Kit. Do the boot camp. It's really great, great training, and a lot of it covers the financial part, so that's really great. And then keep looking at our Facebook page, New York State PTA, because that's where we put up the latest information about our web chats. And so I will try to get on the web chat schedule. They've been very popular, so like there's a line to get on, but I'll try to get a web chat set up that we can talk about some of these great opportunities like we have through MemberHub. So 4 o'clock is going to start our mental health presentation, so I hope you all stay on for that, and then followed by the door prizes that aren't at the door. But anyway, so I wish you all well. And I hope everybody wins a fun prize. And I thank you for joining us today. Again, this was a first for us. And Megan, I could look at those eyes all day long. Megan has a helper. Okay, so great. I think to get to the mental health, we have to sign on to a new place, right? Everybody should have received the link to sign on to the new platform for the MemberHub, for the mental health. So I wish you all well. Enjoy the rest of your summer, but please reach out anytime. I'm here to help. PTA your way. Thank you, Rob. You're awesome. I never stop sharing. Someone's got to tell me all that stuff all the time.